So we're a Tile and Stone studio. We've been open this location approximately 7 or 8 years. We cater to the trade. We also work with homeowners, and we try to be as hands-on as you need us to be. We can do design drawings. We can either work with your designer, work with you directly, but we try and offer anything you need when it comes to tile or stone for your home. So I'll let these two introduce themselves.
Hi there, I'm Todd Huschka. My company is called House of Huschka. Thanks Josiah and Annette for being here. And looking forward to talking to you guys tonight about the kitchen design. My background started a long time ago, almost 30 years ago, in a little old town south of Madison, Wisconsin. So I started out as a cabinet maker and started my own business then, and enjoyed making cabinets and all the fun that came with that. It's fun to be a craftsman and do all that kind of stuff. But it was probably in the late 90s that I saw an Italian kitchen in a showroom in Minneapolis. And I was like that little kid in a candy store. And probably like the little kid that the parents get embarrassed with when you point at something and say, "Oh my God, what is that?" I mean, that was what I thought of when I saw Italian and other European kitchens. The lacquers, the finishes, the technology. And that kind of changed my whole direction and thought process. I mean, I was hooked. And I knew that I didn't have the capabilities to make those type of products. And a lot of what I learned growing up in cabinet making and custom cabinet shops, even though there are brilliant craftsmen, the technology and thing, and it just blew my mind. So in late 1990s, in around 2000, I became a kitchen dealer of a line called Snidero from Italy. And some of you may or may not know that name, but it was a pretty well-known name 20 years ago, and it's still around out there. And opened a showroom in Madison, Wisconsin, and within 18 months, we became the #1 dealer in North America, which was pretty shocking to outsell New York, Chicago, LA, and Miami. But what it showed was the old saying, if you build it, they will come. And what was really cool is the people that would come in there and have the same reaction that I had when I saw Italian kitchens and things like that. Like, they just never see anything like it. And especially with Snidero specifically, there were several kitchens designed by famous designers and like car designers like Pininfarina and things like that. So it was such a unique experience. So going through the decade of the 2000s, it became a machine and a monster, you know, and I had all the joys and successes that come with having a big fancy showroom and high sales and staff and turnover and kitchens on HGTV and on the cover of Rob Report and that whole cycle. And that was kind of my mission then in my 30s. But as that came to an end, you know, and kind of saw itself through towards the end of the decade, I personally was a little bit miserable with the whole thing because it was a monster, you know. And what I really enjoyed with that was the experience and creating the kitchens and the execution of these lines. So the unique thing in my personal experience is that because we had the success and the notoriety of being successful in a city like Madison, Wisconsin, I got to meet and learn all the major Italian and German cabinet lines. So they all wanted me to be dealers. I looked at opening showrooms in the Merchandise Mart in Chicago. I looked all over the place, but at heart I was a small town, you know, Wisconsin boy. And that's what kind of led me to this area. There was a big demand for European design combined with my knowledge. So I decided to come out here 10 years ago and form my company, which is called House of Huschka. And my philosophy was much different than having Snidero or like across the street you have Pogapol there. I didn't want that. I wanted my own lines, and I wanted to be really specialized with the lines that I carry. And so for the last 10 years, and also I didn't want a showroom. I wanted to be lean and mean and just have the best team that we could have. And I gotta say, I'm really lucky because I have some major manufacturers that work with me directly. I'm happy to have my installer here, my logistics and shippers are back there. So instead of the whole retail experience of having a beautiful showroom like this, which there are things about that I miss, I really cater much more to the builders and designers, and with the team I have, we really just execute and do one-off, one-of-a-kind jobs that we just really specialize in being at the best of what we do. So that's kind of what my business is here for those of you that haven't heard of me, which is probably most of you. So that's how I got to be here. And Josiah here wanted to put this display in, which has been fantastic for me to be able to at least show the product, and you can see the detail of what Italian design is all about as far as that goes.
I've been with them 10 years. I've been in the building industry for 30 years. I started in the window industry, and when I was about 21 years old, I was taught by a pretty tough boss whose goal was that if I walked onto a job site and met a contractor, I could talk everything there was about windows, so that I didn't embarrass him. So that was my start in windows. I came to Pirch, like I said, 10 years ago, and we have 7 stores. We specialize in plumbing, appliances, outdoor, hardware. We have a number of other things to provide, but really that's our core competency. And I'm just here to talk about design and help you if you have any questions, and kind of teach everyone that the team is what makes the dream. And that's what's really important. So happy to meet all of you.
Thank you. So yeah, we can cover the topic from kitchen design, from appliances. I can discuss hard surfaces. So we kind of put together some questions here we thought you guys would hopefully resonate with you. The first one was, is your work mainly commercial or residential, and which do you prefer?
I do mostly residential, very little commercial. It's kind of a whole different beast. So maybe light commercial, like small restaurants and things like that. But primarily my focus and specialty is residential.
For me, it's pretty much the same thing. As a cabinet designer and a kitchen dealer, I would equate commercial more to high-rise condos and multi-housing. And back in Wisconsin, that's kind of how we got started. So to land 90-unit condo projects and things like that, when I was younger, to see the contract dollar figure on it was pretty attractive. But 3 years later, often you feel you're better off just cutting them a check and not doing it. So I don't miss that at all. I mean, I've had opportunities out here to do that, but for me, I really enjoy the residential one-offs. You know, it's a much more enjoyable experience than the machine of doing 100 units. You know, it's just, that's an animal that I'm too old for now.
You know, I'd say for most, so we're probably 80% residential, maybe 20% commercial, if that even, because we find that residential, those projects people typically want more unique. It's more of a personal experience. They're looking for a unique backsplash. Whereas commercial, it's about getting it done fast and cheap. It's not so much of the personal. Not always. When the ones we have got involved in are when they want something really special, maybe for a restaurant, for a feature wall. But yeah, by far and large, the designers and the people that we work with are mainly residential. And I know you both have been involved in both the new construction and remodels. What's the biggest difference in those, and is one more challenging than the other?
From my experience, remodels, the clients typically have a bigger budget and they want something that they haven't had their whole life. So when they say they want their dream kitchens, the kids are gone, they've been waiting for this, they want the quality, they want a more personalized, daring kitchen as far as that goes. So I think that, and that's probably 50% of my business. I think when it comes to new construction, and a lot of what I'm going to say is based on my experience here in Orange County, I do a lot of new construction, and so as a kitchen designer or a cabinet supplier, it's nice because it ultimately leads to multiple rooms, which is great, but I find that it's all budget oriented, and it's nobody's fault, but when, your husband would know this more than anybody. I mean, when you're putting together a budget for a whole house, there's a lot of things that have to come together to hit that end budget. And what I see out here a lot of times, interiors and cabinetry, and maybe you see this in stone, even sometimes appliances, there's not a lot left for that. So sometimes we're dealing with budgets on new construction that even though we might be able to get multiple rooms, it's kind of like we're stuck with a number. And I'll give you a good example of kind of what has been a little bit shocking to me with some of the homes out here is I'm working on a possible home back in actually Oshkosh, Wisconsin, believe it or not. The house is going to be $3.5 million total, not counting the lot. Their cabinet budget is $300,000 for that. So we can do that, and that's pretty easy for us to do that. I have another home that I'm looking at out here that's going to be a $30 million home, over 25 rooms of cabinets, and their budget's less than 500 grand. So when that happens, we're all kind of, you throw your hands up, and especially when an owner may want something like this, but with new construction, it's really budget driven. And even though we have a lot of price points within our cabinet lines and our collections, sometimes that drives things more than anything else as far as that goes.
In our industry, there's many definitions of remodel. So I would say if I had to make a quick statement, remodels are much more difficult than new construction because you're definitely restricted to what is in place. And when I say different definitions, we'll see somebody come in and just do a couple bathrooms or maybe just their kitchen, which would be kind of a minor remodel. And then there's also a definition of major remodel where they're literally taking everything down to maybe preserving one wall and or maybe one part of the house and everything else is going. So definitely major remodel. That gets a little easier because we're really working with a new footprint. And then new construction, which we definitely see, obviously as land becomes scarcer and scarcer. It's really based on the existing house and taking it down and starting fresh. But in general, new construction is easier because it is a fresh palette, and we're not working with an old design or kind of a current taste where we're trying to bridge the gap between maybe a traditional look and something that the client now wants, which is more transitional to modern. So we can do anything. Obviously budget, as Todd said, is the issue. But I think the nice thing is we have so much to offer, but there's a lot of ways where we can bridge the gap in the budget area to kind of make it work for the client. So for me, I really look at budget, I look at functionality, how people live in their home, and then we try to make that all work regardless of whether it's new construction or a remodel.
So along those same lines, what would you say is the most challenging part about helping a client design their dream kitchen?
Budget always takes a place, certainly. We try to make that work. I think when you're starting out or when your clients are starting out, it's really important to kind of get those numbers and make those decisions early so that we're working with a real budget. If it's going to a builder and they're just sending plans out, but no kind of mindful education or thoughtfulness has gone into the planning process, it's really difficult. If they're just throwing a number at the budget and saying, oh, a kitchen should cost about $25,000, you're already screwed because that's not going to happen. I mean, it might happen with like a low end, but that is not a realistic figure if you're trying to get some of the new and cool appliances. It doesn't even have to be high end. I'm just saying, like, if you want it to be fresh and new. So I think trying to do a little pre-planning is probably the best idea ahead of time so that we work with a real number so that you're not already disappointed or the client isn't already disappointed from the get-go. Like, I really wanted that, but we couldn't afford it type thing. So that's probably my biggest challenge. And every salesperson at Pirch is happy to do that. Like sit down and do a little pre-planning and do multiple options so that the client really understands what a Bosch kitchen could be, up to a Sub-Zero Wolf, up to a Gaggenau.
Know really what's the latest and greatest and things like that. So it's really important to get down, and again, budget is always going to be part of it, and be realistic of that. And I would say, as a designer, also too, probably one of the more difficult things to have a client is ones that have a hard time making up their mind. So, or the client that needs to check with 5 other people first before they get back to you. So that makes it really difficult to fine tune something when one day it's a white lacquer kitchen and the next day it's a raised panel oak kitchen. So that's, so it's a lot of listening on my part to get them to do that. When I work with designers, which is a big core of what I do here, that's a really fun balance, working with designers that understand design, but they realize that my goal is not, I don't need to have my stamp on a kitchen or design and say, wow, this is something incredible that I did. My goal is more of a tool to give an interior designer here what they need to present their client. And I would say the only challenges are, in this movement now towards more modern styles here in Orange County, I can tell immediately when I get a set of drawings sent to me from an architect or a certain designer or two, that I know that they probably don't have a lot of experience in modern design. So it's a fine dance that I have to do with designers because I don't want to come in like a freight train and say you should do this and you should do this, but really listen to them, but also be really open and throw in things there like, well, here's why we shouldn't do handles on this kitchen, where they may have done handles on all their kitchen they've ever done, but now we're talking modern. And so once I get that rapport with the designer of like, he or she and I are the team for their client, then it's really fun. But sometimes that's a delicate balance to get to that point, basically.
Yeah, and I would say for us, one of the biggest challenges has been, the decision-making process. Sometimes we'll have kitchens, I think this is where technology is a blessing and a curse. We'll have kitchen design and we're ready to pull the trigger, and all of a sudden the client's like, well, I was on Pinterest last night, and now I want to do this and this. Like, okay, and after 3 or 4 iterations of that, that can get frustrating. That's probably one of the biggest challenges for us. And I know COVID has changed the way people live, how they use their homes. Has that changed the way people are viewing their kitchens or how you're designing their kitchens?
100%. Yeah, 1,000% actually. Let me change my answer. It is a incredible dynamic change in what is happening in the industry because appliances are taking so long that we are seeing designers send homeowners in early in the game to make appliance decisions so that they can get their order in the queue. Because unfortunately it's not getting better. It is still 12, in some cases 18 months to get appliances. And so, these homeowners who I feel for, like sincerely, are having to make these quick decisions about how they're going to design their house or their kitchen super quick, so early in the game, and probably not mentally really ready to pull the trigger that quick. Pirch, I definitely hand it to our management. We have tried to look at the market and look at the most popular sort of SKUs and model numbers and do pre-purchasing of those so that we can start to get purchase orders and those popular items in the queue ahead of time, so we can at least try to bridge the gap so it's not 18 months, maybe it's 12, maybe it's 9. But yeah, COVID has changed the dynamic. It's changed the decision making tremendously for the industry. And unfortunately, I don't really see the lead times coming down. I'm sure everyone would love if I, gave like a great bulletin, like it's all gonna end tomorrow. But it's not. It's still really bad out there. So yeah, it's been tough.
From an importer of Italian cabinets, it was difficult when it first happened because in Italy, and in Europe it hit first. So when we were in that fog of the first 2 or 3 months, when they were shut down, things were definitely delayed. And then when it got into job sites, and since my amazing installer's right there, you know, we were running in the one that's looking around right now with his face getting red in the black. You know, we had situations here, more of an install, where we didn't know, can we be on a job site? Can we not be on a job site? One person is totally fine going in there without a mask. The other person won't even walk in, 20 feet from the house without a mask on. So that was very challenging. And even my warehouse team, they had to pull guys, when there was the orders up in LA for, only so many people in warehouses. That really affected things. But I will say from a kitchen design standpoint, working with clients, and even now, the factories in Italy and stuff have really stayed pretty much true to, the roughly 3 months to 4 months max lead time. And the only thing I'm seeing, which is more of a global issue, are scarcities of materials. And the big one is marine grade stainless. And one of my lines is an outdoor kitchen line, so that has definitely needed marine grade stainless. And when we were doing a quote here over the summer, that price went up 25%, and I was talking to the manufacturer and asking, well, why is there scarcity of marine grade stainless in Europe or probably all over the world? He goes, all the governments are buying it right now for their military. So that's how the global thing affects all of us. And so we're all part of that. But it's kind of interesting, and you talked about the appliances, and things like that, where it was always, we can't wait 3 months for Italian cabinets. Oh, geez, the world's coming to an end, and stuff like that. And even on job sites now, the windows are delayed. There's things like that we're starting an install this week that we've had in storage for 3 months. We've had another kitchen that's been stored for a year. So I'm kind of happy that I'm not on that side of it anymore. But the only other thing I'll say about COVID was, and I'm sure any of you guys that deal with clients, it was an interesting psychological take on clients and their mentality towards COVID and getting their houses done. With half of them on one side and half of them on the other, and it was a very interesting experiment to hear the ones that, don't worry about it, we're all fine, versus the ones that are, I don't care about any of that, I need my spec house done tomorrow. So that was, I think, an interesting thing. It's just a business owner when we were all kind of in that together at that time, basically.
And I think for us, just that people's homes have become a lot more important to them. They spend more time there. So I think maybe they would have made a quicker decision in the past about their materials or what they were going to use. And now it's become more of a priority for them. And I think also because they're in their kitchens more, they're using them more. Also the products they use. They oftentimes want to make sure that something's going to hold up because now they're cooking a lot more, they're entertaining a lot more, so they want to make sure their materials are less maintenance, less maintenance driven and more easy to maintain. So I feel like that's the biggest change for us. What are some of the latest? It's
modern kitchens. It's darker finishes. It's darker woods, which again is much different than what I see here in Orange County. If I was just to look on Instagram, you're not seeing the dark Nordic woods, the eucalyptus, the dark lacquers, and there's a big thing coming now with what I call carbon kitchens, where it's not a true black, but it's almost like an anthracite or a carbon or charcoal. These deep dark mixed with woods and things like that, and even doors. We talked about that, about porcelain, and a company called Laminam, where whole entire cabinet doors are done in porcelain, and then we can do matching tops locally. So when I work with the Italians, what I love working with them is they're always pushing that boundary of different finishes and looks for what's coming out. And then it just takes a little bit longer for it to get here to the US, where it becomes normal. Again, like with modern becoming more standard here in Orange County, which for me is very refreshing as far as that goes.
Yeah, I've seen definitely some twists in the trend, which is kind of cool. To Josiah's point, people they appreciate their homes a lot more. They are living in their homes a lot more. And I think, not to say it was PTSD, but I feel like people are thinking, if we had to go through that again, and I had to be in my house with my family that long again, when I'm going to redo it, what would I do over? So I see a little more of customization in appliance decisions, a lot more modular type decisions, like a Gagano, where you can choose different types of cooktops, an induction, maybe with a dual burner, maybe with a wok, so that they have multi-functionality within their actual cooking surface, which has been really cool. I think people choose appliances on a couple decisions. Either it's because they want everything to be matchy-match, it all has to be Wolf Sub-Zero, or because they want it to fit their function. Like, I want my cooktop to be this because this is how I live, but I like a Miele dishwasher and I want a Sub-Zero fridge, and that's totally okay. I mean, many things are panel ready, so it doesn't really matter, and what do we really care what other people think? What's in our kitchen, it's all about us. So a lot more customization in appliances. I am seeing big refrigerators go in laundry, utility spaces. People, when COVID hit, which was a huge shock, people were buying a lot of frozen food, and you could not get freezers. You couldn't get like little garage freezers, they were gone. So people are planning for the future and putting bigger refrigerators and freezers in their back kitchens, in their utility kitchens, garages. I've seen more people build out garages lately with big, huge freezers, big, huge refrigerators. And the last thing is outdoor. Outdoor is huge, huge. Big outdoor kitchens, spaces for people to sit, pizza ovens, side burners, refrigerators. Like, really, this is where, especially in California, we're gonna live. If I get stuck here again with my 3 children, I am gonna live it up and not be like constricted to my little space. So, but it's refreshing. I think we learned a lot, and I think it's changed the design element a little bit and our pattern, which is nice. It's always nice to kind of get out of our rut. And it's been nice. And I think the appliance manufacturers have everything to give. We just have to be open to change.
The biggest thing we've seen in the tile and stone industry, and it's been happening for probably, I think, the last 7-8 years, is porcelain is becoming a huge product that's being used. Porcelain was typically just a tile, a small tile, a smaller tile, like a floor tile used in commercial applications. And now porcelain, with technology, you got big slabs, 10-foot by 5-foot slabs. With the technology, especially the slabs coming out of Spain, Italy, look beautiful. They look like natural stone. They come textured, so you can get the look of a Calcutta marble for a lot less money, a lot less maintenance. So you've seen that increase year over year. I've been to go to all the trade shows in Europe and here domestically, and every year that segment of the industry continues to grow. With the natural stone, you see a lot more quartzite. People have gotten kind of over granite, and that's kind of a dated look, or a lot of granites are, but people still are using quartzite a lot because quartzite has kind of the look of marble, but it's actually harder than granite, so it's a really dense stone. So it wears really well for kitchens, but it has that beautiful natural stone, the real natural stone look. And then we're still seeing a lot of textured materials for backsplashes. Like I said, even a lot of the man-made materials now have really nice textures. So yeah, those are probably the 3 biggest things that we're seeing. But all those things lend themselves once again to being user-friendly, low maintenance. People are living in their homes more, using their kitchens more. So those become a big priority. What's one thing or something that you would like to see change about the way kitchen design happens today? I feel like you have a lot to say about that, Todd.
We've had discussions. First off, I'm a big believer that design is a personal opinion. And you're just like fashion. And whatever you like, who cares what anyone thinks? And one of the shocking things that I've come into see here in Orange County with a majority of the kitchens that I see is lack of personalization, pizzazz. I constantly tell people that we did more unique kitchens in the Midwest than I've done here. Not more expensive, but but just a sense of something personal and something important to them. And it's coming around, but I tell people that some of my Italian manufacturers, that when I see these homes and things like that, in what I would call the norm out here, if kitchens were an item of clothing, they would be khakis. And you know, they're nice, they're comfortable, they do the job, but there's so much more out there. They're not John Varvatos, they're not Versace, they're not Gucci. And I think, again, working with the Italians, and when they look at kitchens like furniture and art, I just wish that people here, and it starts with the owners. I mean, if they only want something, or again, if it's all based on linear foot pricing because they need to get in there, the hands are tied right there. But what I try to convey to designers and builders, which is a core group, is come to people like me or us, because we have the knowledge of what's the latest and greatest. And before you jump right in and buy this or buy that, or like you said, look online and you saw this or you heard this, come to the experts before you make any decisions and just do your homework. And you know, don't be afraid to do something that's just different. I personally would not want a house like my neighbors. I'm just like that. And for the people that, you know, want a white shaker kitchen, more power to them. I mean, and they're beautiful in their own way. But for me, I would just like to see something that when I work with these owners and buyers who are great people, like, what's something special about this, or that you want to do that has a little bit of a giggle factor to it? I mean, we've done kitchens with aquariums in it, hidden TVs, which you've seen. There's little things we can do that just make it a little bit different. And so I would love to see that try to creep in more here in Orange County for sure.
If you're in a meeting with me, typically how it starts is I will sit down with a designer and the family, and I will first start talking about how they live and function. Because we could get right out there on the floor and start picking things, but it may not necessarily work with their lifestyle. If they have a lot of kids, if they have a big family, or if they're just, you know, empty nesters and they need a few appliances but that are functional. So I really try to dig into that. It's all about function. It'll be on my headstone, guarantee it. So, so the one thing I would change is that sometimes I will sit in a meeting with designers who have sort of pre-selected appliances based on how they want the kitchen to look. And once I've finished my little quiz of the family, I will sometimes assess that those decisions or those appliance choices are not the best choice for that family. And I'll kindly weave that into the conversation, because the worst thing that we want to do is to choose appliances for a family that doesn't work. As much as it would look pretty, it's still going to look pretty. Obviously, you're designers, you're going to make everything look beautiful. But the best thing for a family is to choose things that really work for them and work for their lifestyle and make them happy at the end, as opposed to choosing stuff that looks really good in a photo shoot when the project is done. So I'm really passionate about that, because I hate to see a project done and then have a family not be able to use the appliances because they're afraid, or it just doesn't work with how they live.
What is there a rule of thumb about how often someone should consider redoing their kitchen?
From my experience, and I want to follow up on one thing that Annette just talked about the meetings with the clients. Her and I are actually working with a client right now on an exact appliance package that we're talking about with an incredible designer. But we all need to be in sync like that. And it is so important that, you know, getting back to my earlier point, that when you go to different places and go to your kitchen store or your appliance store or even your stone company, or, you know, make sure everyone is on the same loop before you pick anything out, or at least before you order. Because there are technical things that may work, may not work, or like the job we're working on together, Annette brought up a very good point about, it was regarding a range hood and circulation, where the designer, we have this amazing look, but is it going to be functional? And so we actually have to have a meeting with the client to bring them in, where we just lay it out to them, and because we don't want any hidden secrets, and Annette mentioned that when we talked about it. She doesn't want to be the one responsible that, wow, this looks amazing, but my house fills with smoke, and then vice versa from a design standpoint. Sometimes when appliances are pre-selected and not knowing the exact cabinet detail, there are little things like dishwasher heights and things like that that are very important in European design that, again, the client and we need to be on the same team with all that, versus we'll just go shopping here and there. Regarding the kitchens and obsolete, I was saying 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that kitchens are obsolete in 10 years. Which again is disappointing for me when so many people do their kitchens based on resale. We're replacing kitchens right now in the Meridian condo project by Newport or Fashion Island. And that's been there 5 years. And the technology, again, the finishes are so different, let alone, the appliances and things like that. And so I just, and like you talked about, the surfaces, there's just new stuff coming constantly. And as someone that grew up in this small town in Wisconsin where you had this big Victorian home, that the kitchen was there, the life of the home, that's just unheard of nowadays. So I just think finishes that I'm doing now, and even jobs that we installed 10 years ago, still look hip and current. But a lot of those clients even say, geez, if I was doing this now, I'd really like to do this finish or this material or something like that. So I'd say 10 years max. There's no rule, but I think that's, with the way things are changing so quickly, that's kind of off the top of my head.
I would agree. I think 10 years is a good timeline. One of the things that I really try to stress in meetings, while budget is important, I totally understand that, there is also a lot of people will say, well, can I get a dishwasher for $500? It's like, well, you could, sure, certainly, but there is an exponential increase in service the lower you go in price point. So I can find anything, but you have to understand that the service levels go up as your price point goes down. And so I really, if you look at a project over 10 years and you think, oh, I saved $2,000, but you have all these problems, oftentimes clients will look back and say, why didn't I just spend the $2,000, right? And if we can sort of kindly enforce that, it makes the project, it makes the result so much better over that 10 years. The other thing I would say is, unfortunately, except with maybe the premium appliances, the lifespan of appliances is much shorter now. As much as we would love to believe that all of our major appliance manufacturers are building everything with quality and it's all the way it used to be, it's simply not. And so it's really important to design a project with sizes that are fairly standard today, right? Like, veer away from 27-inch ovens. They're going away. They're becoming dinosaurs. 42-inch cooktops, not made anymore. And so if you're choosing stuff that can't easily be changed out, or somewhat easily, it becomes much more problematic in that time span from 1 to 10, right? When it maybe does die, unfortunately, and it needs to be replaced. So sort of that foresight of choose what's good now, choose good quality, it'll be just a much happier experience for 10 years.
I thought I'd open up if there's any questions. We could have a few minutes if you guys want to ask any questions about cabinetry, appliance, plumbing related, or tile or stone. If not, that means we did our job really well. All right. Well, I want to. All right. Yes. I'm sorry. The natural gas appliance is what?
No. So while a lot of the city ordinances are asking for more electric, clearly, especially in new permits. Well, there are ways, obviously we're changing out a lot. We're seeing a lot more electric dryers now, so which helps with the percentage that they need electric. We're definitely seeing an uptick in induction, which is an amazing technology. I personally have it and absolutely love it. I know it's kind of a shift and people get a little nervous, but that's a nice way to go. But unfortunately, the appliance industry itself is not ready for this ordinance and change because they haven't gotten this far yet. So we do have a much more tighter footprint when it comes to selections. You can't do a 48-inch induction range right now. It's not available. No one makes it. So if that is first and foremost in the design, we can make it happen. But the appliance industry needs to catch up a little bit before we can truly meet the demands of what the city has already put in place. So we have a little opposition still, as usual.
That's your question? All right. Anything else? All right, well, I want to thank Annette and Todd for both being here. If you have any plumbing or appliance needs, you can certainly see Annette at Pirch. She's the best. And if you want any beautiful European cabinetry, you can see Todd. And for anything tile or stone related, you please see us here at Famosa. So thank you guys for attending. Thank you for your time tonight. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening.